Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals and entrepreneurs publish to inform their consumers, to grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights on remarkable attorneys with a focus on elder law and estate planning from across the country. Joining me on this segment is Michael Gill. He's based out of Alexandria, Virginia, and he's the principal attorney at Speedwell Law. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mark, for having me.
Michael, I know that elder law and estate planning is quite a broad topic. Can you kind of give us a little sneak peek at your areas of focus on that spectrum and the types of folks that you serve?
Sure, absolutely. I'd say that elder law, there's a lot of misconceptions about there. It's a kind of vague term. What does elder law even mean? And I boil it down for people by saying that elder law is advocating for the rights and dignity of an elderly person. And it touches on all areas of a person's life, obviously. Some of the big questions that come up later in life are, who's going to be helping me make decisions if I lose the ability to do so or make wise decisions for myself? Who's going to make decisions about where I live, the medical care I receive, and the way that dovetails with people's lives is all encompassing. So elder law really comes down to dignity, in making sure that the life that you've lived is respected and honored with caring, compassionate care. And it can be very difficult because it touches on family circumstances that are not always crystal clear, or that have been in place for a long time, but somehow the dynamic changes, or long simmering tensions flare up because it feels like a life or death decision. Who's going to take care of mom or dad? Where are mom or dad going to live? Who's going to be making sure that they get the health care that they need? And so that's the elder law piece of my practice. And that might mean petitioning the court for authority or preparing documents that give another person authority to manage your affairs. And so those are your typical estate planning documents. So a living trust, a financial power of attorney, an advanced medical directive, and obviously a will, but that a will is different from a living trust in that a will only applies once you're gone. And it basically is like a letter of instruction to the court, telling the court who you want to do things and what you want to have happen to your things. So living trust, people don't understand necessarily, are actually really powerful incapacity planning tools. And so we trend that way in many of these more difficult circumstances, where a financial power of attorney might not cut it, because one of the problems with a financial power of attorney is that it copies and pastes authority into another person without any ability to terminate the authority of the principal, the person that's unable to manage their affairs and make wise decisions. And one of the first things that goes in dementia scenarios is executive functioning. And so that's your ability to tell whether someone's being sincere with you or not, or whether a particular financial move is one that you can afford, or is just in general sound judgment, exercising sound judgment. Executive functioning is one of the first things that goes, and it's not something that is determinative in telling whether someone has a dementia diagnosis that would make them incapable of managing their affairs. And so, it often dovetails with a whole host of other symptoms. And, we don't have any way of definitively diagnosing dementia. And so it's always from a universe of symptoms. And so having built-in methods or mechanisms for determining when a person is incapacitated, like you have in a living trust, can be very valuable. And so, I've touched on a lot of issues there. I should probably, wrap it up there.
By virtue of the name elder law and estate planning, it almost implies that you kick the can down the road until it's almost too late. But I understand that that's sort of a misconception, and you can actually plan for these things earlier and just update them along the way. Is that right?
Yeah, of course. You can do it at any point in your life. I would say that the most common trigger for people to do their estate planning would be having a child, buying a home, And so a lot of my clients end up being early 30s, mid 30s, late 30s type, when they're first coming to see me. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have clients who are in their 20s. And, I do get the very prudent, advanced planners who do reach out to me in their 20s. And there's all the value in the world there. And, fundamentally, that's what it comes down to, is that it's kind of like value planning. Like, when you decide to do this thing, and most people put it off and put it off and put it off, and that's okay. We'll take you at any point that we meet you in your life. But yeah, you're well served by doing it at any point. It's really one of those situations where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
So you mentioned the word the will. It's almost like a old fashioned term that everybody kind of thinks that, oh, I have a will, so this is taken care of.
Right.
But you mentioned that there's actually more to it. Can you kind of clarify that, the difference between the will and why you need to do more?
Yeah. So as I touched on, a will is like a letter of instruction telling the court who you want to serve and what you want to have happen to your property. It's a last will and testament. It's your last statement of your wishes. And the court is the de facto provider of oversight for making sure that your wishes are carried out. And that process is called probate. And I personally never denigrate probate as this evil thing, because it's not an evil thing. It's fundamentally an essential part of our system of laws. And so actually having a probate system is a blessing for our society, because you have a public institution that can administer an estate and adjudicate disputes. So probate is fundamentally a good thing. However, probate is optional. You don't have to subject your family to the oversight of the courts if you don't want to. And so that there are good reasons why you might not want to. And so we can set up a plan where your estate does not get subjected to the oversight of the court. And you don't have to have a living trust in order to make that result happen. It's just the most effective way.
Michael, what inspired you to focus on elder law and estate planning? How did you get started in this field?
Sure. So I've always been interested in the intersection of law and money. And you could also call money finance. I had experiences in undergrad with high finance, working at hedge funds, working at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and just generally being in an environment where, finances were a focus. And that interested me very much. And when I chose to go to law school, I thought I should find the intersection of those two things. The other thing that really appeals to me about estate planning is that it resembles a typical entrepreneurial business more so than other areas of practice of law, because it's really about finding the consumer and getting your message to them, and telling them about yourself in a way that makes you appealing to them. And it looks like a regular business that also requires a law degree. And so it's quite a nice thing being able to be my own boss, to have my own practice, and to be involved in subject matter that is meaningful to me. And estate planning is very meaningful to me because I get to help people. And for me, that really, that's everything. Getting to help people is the mission of my life. It's, really honestly a luxury, because you're having a meaningful impact on people's lives. Where you're getting to be involved in some of their most intimate decisions and treating them with the care and respect and dignity that those decisions deserve, the privilege that you have of being there. I remind myself of that every day.
Before I ask you my last question, for folks tuning in that they know they need to get their ducks in a row, but they just don't know where to start, can you kind of tell us what the process would be like working with you, and what you would take them through to get their affairs in order?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thanks for asking. So most people start their process by looking online if they don't have a great referral from a friend or a family. And so obviously the first thing that you're going to do when you're looking for an estate planning attorney is you're going to qualify them by taking a look at their online resources. So their website is going to be your first stop, or it might be Yelp or Google that might be your first stop, and looking at the reviews is obviously important. It's not everything, of course, because it tends to be a snapshot of the very best experiences that people have with that business. And so you have to make a judgment call for yourself, and part of that includes talking to the attorney and making sure that you're going to be a good fit. So as charming and appealing as I might be, let's assume that you think I'm charming and appealing for a moment. I might not be everyone's favorite flavor of ice cream, and that's okay, right? So, maybe you don't like Rocky Road. Other people love Rocky Road. Totally fine. And not that our representation is going to be a Rocky Road. That's just my example. And so you're going to qualify your attorney. You're going to talk to them. And so having the opportunity to talk to that attorney is important. And I make myself available through a seamless platform that allows you to get on my calendar and speak with me at an appointed time, so that you have the certainty that you're going to talk to the attorney at the appointed hour. And so I have a bunch of digital tools that make my representation really a value add for people because of how easy it is. And everyone thinks that when they call the estate planning attorney that, there's going to be some hard conversations, and it's really going to be like, it's like pulling teeth, like my spouse might not want to do it, and this, that, and the other thing. And so one of the value adds of talking to an attorney who makes estate planning, elder law, estate administration their focus is that you're going to have a really bespoke, well-tailored process for conducting that representation. And so I have a very well-defined process that when you reach out to me, you're going to find out about almost immediately. So I hope that answers your question, Mark.
So for folks that are in the Virginia area where you can serve them, how can they find you, connect with you, and learn more?
Sure. So my website is speedwelllaw.com. Speed, you're speeding down the road. Well, you're doing well, law.com. The 3 L's there are tricky for some people. And yeah, fill out my contact form on my website. That goes directly to my email, and that's the best way to get in touch with me. And you can also book an initial consultation or an initial phone call with me through that, through my website. Then, of course, if you prefer to speak to a receptionist, you can call my phone number, 703-553-2577.
Michael, this has been terrific. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing insights with my audience today, and I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Thanks so much, Mark. It's been a real privilege to be here.
Michael Gill, principal attorney at Speedwell Law. And this segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals publish in order to inform their consumer, to grow their practices, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for joining me.